little bit windy here, unfortunately, and the wind's picking up. Unfortunately, this video, I'm stuck with doing it outside, so if it's too bad, we'll just have to put some of this in another video and go in and finish this inside. But I really wanted y'all to be able to see exactly what we got here. So we got ourselves a King Ag mobile grain bin. So this holds 3 tons of grain. Now, I think they measure it using corn. So obviously, if you have something a little bit more fine, or it's going to hold a little bit more. If it's a little bit more coarse, it's going to hold a little bit less. But right around 3 tons is what it's designed for. These mobile ones generally are limited to 3 tons. You'll find them in 5 tons. Now, the reason this is such a big deal is because it's specifically for small farms. If you look for large farms, you'll find something called a gravity wagon, and the gravity wagon is basically the same thing on a much, much larger scale. Usually the smallest ones you'll find there are going to hold about 6 tons, they're outrageously, substantially more expensive. Those gravity wagons, it's not uncommon to see them going for $20,000 brand new. Even when you start looking at used ones, you'll find them for $1,500, but they're in pretty rough condition. This one today, we purchased this morning, we paid $3,500 for it brand new. This one does not have an auger at the bottom. Unfortunately, it's really because they're backed up and they just couldn't get an auger model in. That's what we originally wanted. We're going to end up adding an auger to this at a later date. Now, for those of you that don't have an auger, if you're looking at doing pigs or cattle or something, the auger will come off of here and will allow us to fill up a big 1-ton pig feeder. Makes it very, very simple for our feeding operation. There's a couple options for an auger. If you, sorry, my phone is running out of some battery. If you're running a King Ag product here, King Ag makes one that hooks to this that runs off of a 110 volt outlet. That's a great option if you're going to set this near your barn or something like that and you're just running some pigs. Because we feed a lot in the pasture, we wanted, and we don't necessarily have power everywhere that we operate this, we're actually looking for one that we can attach here that'll run off of the PTO shaft on our tractor. That's a much better option for us to be able to back the tractor up, hook up the PTO, and run that auger. And then that gives us capability to do it anywhere on the farm. The one downside of that is that the tractor's down, we lose some of our feed capabilities, and it can create a little bit more headache there. But all in all, that's a much better option for us rather than pulling out the generator or a really long extension cord to try to feed. So you can see here, if you're just doing small operations, you have the option of just pulling this pin, and I can lift up and then the grain falls out the bottom. I'll show you what that looks like here. Tilt this down a little bit. You can see that just opens up. This hopper is shaped in a way that it's basically a big funnel that comes out the bottom, and you can stick something like a 5-gallon bucket under here to feed your hogs or your cows. Now, like I said, for us, we feed our hogs 1 ton at a time, and so this will hold 3 tons. With our 1-ton feeder, we got 4 tons on the farm. That's enough for us currently to get through somewhere between a third and a half of our hogs' final growth weight, depending on how many orders we get. Excuse me. Now, this model, the King Ag one of the reasons we wanted this is because it has a dual axle. For the same price, you can buy one with a single axle. The single axle, the advantage is it does turn a little bit more smoothly because neither of these axles turn, and so you end up getting a little bit of grinding on the wheels. But a dual axle one is far more stable on hillsides, and just to me, just a higher end product. And so that's why we looked for one that has the dual axle. And this one has a little bit heavier duty tires, so these were good for on-road use as well as off-road use, and that was a huge advantage to us. So we just drove this one 2 hours to get it home. We did not take it on the freeway, but we were going about 55, 60 the entire way. So certainly roadworthy, and depending on where you're at, legal. Some areas you can't drive it on the freeway depending on the laws there. Here in Alabama, I believe, we're just limited to county roads with it, so that's why we had to take all back roads and go 55 the whole way home. And actually, it's about 3 hours to get home. It's 2 hours there, 3 hours back. These are sold out all over the place, so that's why we had to drive so far to get it. To show you out here, we have a viewing window. So this obviously tells us what our feed level is. So we start seeing this, we know it's time to order more feed. Now these ones, the feed has to actually be delivered to you, or you have to have a grain silo that you can go pick up feed. Now for us, I can go about 10 minutes down the road and there's a place that I can get cracked corn, I can get soy hulls, I can get mixed feeds, I can get whatever I want. Problem is that it's not non-GMO, which is what we feed our animals. And so in order to get the non-GMO, I have to call Hillsboro Feed up in North Alabama. They bring a truck down here for a minimum charge, and then we can, at that point in time, open this hatch up top, and once that hatch is open, they'll fill this up with a big auger on their truck, and it's, again, 3 tons of feed in here. We hold 1 ton in the feeder, and we've got 4 tons of feed at any given time. This is a great way for small farms to feed. Gravity wagons are not an option for most of us because either A, the price prohibits us, B, we don't have a tractor large enough to pull them, and 3, the food would spoil before we would ever, A, B, 3, yeah, it's like Home Alone, right? C, that would happen before the food would spoil, before we ever actually got a chance to use it all up. And so that's why we want to do something a little bit smaller. Ideally, we'll eventually have probably 2 of these here. And again, for $3,500, it's a really great way of storing feed. There's not the other downside to gravity wagons is gravity wagons are usually open at the top and they have a canvas cover. This is solid steel at the top with a big latch, big door. This one's 100% rodent proof. There's nothing getting in there besides bugs will still get in there. It doesn't seal that well. If you had a big problem with bugs, I would probably put some weather stripping around it or something to seal it up. And you fill it so infrequently you could actually just run duct tape all around it and seal off all the edges until the next time you had to fill it. But anyway, so there's options there, but this is rodent proof. There shouldn't be any mice in it or anything like that getting into our feed. It's obviously weatherproof, everything up top, and we'll try to get up there and show y'all. Everything up top slopes away from the roof. So actually, let's do that. Let's jump up here and set the camera up top. Okay, guys, so we can see that we have the hopper. Everything kind of aims down towards this. They did a decent job with the welds, not a phenomenal job, certainly, but not a bad job. I'm a little disappointed with the paint job they did inside here. I feel like they should have covered that because the humidity here is going to get to this. So at some point in time, we will probably hit this with some rust-proof paint and probably do that before we fill it for the first time. So we'll have to look at that. But you can see this lid here just slides over and closes down on it. This has a lip, and then everything is sloped away from it and sloped away from the lid here. So this actually seals up really, really well. Very, very happy with the overall system on this. Again, it's just a very economical way to afford to be able to store feed. Feed is a pain to store because the rodents get in it. So you can't just put it in your garage. We used to use 55-gallon drums, but pigs go through a lot of feed. And all that feed can be a pain to store. Okay, so pigs, like I said, they go through a ton of feed, and then if you've got cows as well, or goats or something else that you're giving that feed to, you can really go through a lot. But if you have 10 pigs, they will go through a ton of feed, around 7 tons of feed, depending on how much you raise them to, how long you raise them. We raise ours a little bit longer than most traditional pig guys, and so ours do get a little bit bigger. That's so we can over-deliver to our customers. But that pig feed can get pretty expensive, but the bigger issue is storing it. So because of where we had to get it, we had to drive an hour and a half every time we got a load of pig feed. We could only store 1 ton at a time because we always stored them in 55-gallon drums and food-grade 55-gallon plastic drums, and that was a real nightmare. And then there's no way to handle the drums to actually get them rotated up into the pig feeder, and because the pig feeder sits 4 feet high, right? The top of it is about 4 feet off the ground to hold a ton. So you have to store the feed in bags inside the 55-gallon drums, which means one drum holds 4 full bags, 55-gallon, or one 55-gallon drum holds 4 bags of pig feed, 50-pound bags of pig feed. If you can drain the bags or open the bags and empty the content in there, one will hold about 350 pounds. So it's a pretty substantial difference. Sorry, I had that's how my neighbors come down the road. That's a pretty substantial difference. So but there's no way to handle that. So if you're feeding 2 pigs, 55-gallon drums are the way to go. If you're going to be doing anything over 10 pigs, then something like this is definitely a better option. Now, let me show you how this connects to your car. So you're going to have a truck, right? So you have your ball on your truck. What you do is you take the ball off, and the ball, this actually goes through the ball, and it's just a pin. Now these are generally designed for tractors, but they do work pretty well on vehicles, and you can carry a vehicle, or can carry this like this. So if you're wondering how you tow this behind a truck, that's how you do it. You just take the ball off of the stinger and put it through where the ball would normally thread through. You'll just stick this right in there, and it's fairly simple process, not a big deal. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That's the solution for small farm grain storage. This has been a big headache and hassle of mine trying to figure out exactly what to do. This is by far the best option that I've found. Like I said, there's 55-gallon barrels, but they really suck for anything more than just a few animals. So $3,500 is what it's going for today. Now, with the prices of steel and everything going up, I assume that's going to get worse. But again, right now, that's about what it runs. So you can take that, and there's different brands out there. Don't necessarily just look at King Ag, although in general, I've been pretty happy with this one. But definitely a great way for you to store your grains, and whether you're just running a few cows, some pigs, and some chickens and goats, if you use a multi-purpose feed, this would be a great way to store all of that. You don't necessarily need the auger on small farms. Gravity feeding right here into a 5-gallon excuse me 5-gallon bucket works just fine. Man, I'm dying here. But other than that, guys, I really appreciate y'all watching. If you have any questions about this system or how we're doing things, post it down in the comment boxes. I'll definitely be down there looking around at things and trying to get back to y'all. So if anything pops up at you and you want to know, hey, how do you do this, that, or whatever, post it down in there, and we'll happy to go over it and show you exactly what we're doing here. We'll see y'all.